What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Life's a Garden. Today's positive, motivational, inspirational message is think before you act. Before you pass judgment onto someone, try to walk in their shoes. Try to see things through their eyes. In many instances, whether it's personal or in a social aspect or, worldwide issues, it's easy to cast blame or to cast criticism, to condemn people. But it's hard to do so when you see things through their perspective. In order to truly cast judgment, you have to first see it through their eyes. Try to see things through their position, to the way they live, to their circumstances. And in doing that, we gain perspective. And in a lot of, in many cases, judgment is just to be cast. In a lot of cases, not so much. And it all comes from your own perspective as well. Basically, what I want to say is, before you speak negatively, act negatively, think about it. Think about the situation that these people are in, this person is in, this situation might be, before you act rashly, before you cast judgment, before you crucify someone. And with that being said, let's roll on into today's episode. We are on episode 175 of Life's a Garden. Like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, a baffled king composing, hallelujah, 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 halla-fucking-lujah. And we sing hallelujah, Lordy Lord, we sing hallelujah. Because finally, the Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs. It only took us 8 long, excruciating years. 16 straight games we lost to the Chiefs. They've won 2 Super Bowls in that time, been to 3. They have been nothing but an absolute thorn in our side. And finally, we slay the beast. My bitter rivals. And boy, oh boy, is it sweet. Is it ever, ever sweet. Now, with all that being said, as much as I love to gloat and I love to be excited and talk shit, and I'll never not talk shit about the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't give a fuck how many Super Bowl rings they get. I will consistently belittle them, degrade them, and speak about how much I hate them. Because that'll never change. None of that will ever change. In fact, the more Super Bowl rings they get, the more I feel that way. Having said all that, after our victory last Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs, I looked over at my buddy Mac and I just said, dude, we can't even really brag about this. Like, this kind of sucks. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm stoked and I'll still talk shit because not only did we beat them, We destroyed them. I believe they had 5 turnovers. Patrick Mahomes was responsible for 3 of them, which is just so fucking beautiful. Russell Wilson had 3 touchdowns. I think he had 3. Maybe he had 2. I think he had 3. I think he threw for 3 touchdowns. Fuck yeah, dude. I told everybody. I told all of you. Russ is not the problem. The defense all year has been the problem. God damn it. And you see what happens when the defense plays top-notch ball. We are a good football team. Now, does Russ have improvements to make? Absolutely. He is by and far not the top-tier quarterback in the league. He has a lot of improvements to make. He's got to protect the ball better. He has to make better decisions. He can't hold on to it in the pocket as much, or as long as he's been doing. He needs to make better reads. But we are finally starting to look like the team we were promised to be. And in all fairness to everything involved, we fucking, it makes sense. In all fairness to the situation, we wrote him off so quickly. I was pissed. I thought it was a botched. Everything was just completely falling apart. But when you think about it, it's a whole new coaching system. Of course, it's going to take time to adjust. You're not going to just come out guns blazing after one off season. It takes time to adjust to the new system, and you're starting to see it take place. Thank God Sean Payton and the Broncos organization didn't panic. They didn't blow everything up. They didn't trade everybody. They stayed the course. And I'm not saying that we're a fucking playoff contender by any means yet. We got more to prove. We're on a bye week this week. We go to Buffalo next week. That's where we prove everything. If we can go back to back, beat Kansas City and Denver. Well, we beat the Packers the week before. Beat the Packers, beat the Chiefs, and then beat Buffalo in Buffalo. We might be looking at a complete turnaround. Because after that, we got Minnesota in Denver. I'll be there. And Cuzzy is out for the season. Kirko Cousins out for the season. Joshua Dobbs will take over. So if we beat Buffalo, we might be on a 4-game winning streak. And Kansas City plays Miami this week. Well, they will have played Miami by the time this came out. And as much as Miami's still in the league, in the conference, you always want your division teams to lose. So go Miami this week. God, I hope. And like I said, we can't even brag. We can't even brag about our win against the Chiefs because they've had our number for fucking almost a decade. And that sucks. But you know what? Monkeys off the back. We finally slayed the beast. I've been waiting so long for this. So I'm going to live it up. I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to enjoy it. Yeah, it's hard to brag about it, but you know what? Fuck it. I'm bragging all the way to the bank. And I get a bye week too. I get a full bye week to live it up off this. Hell yes, dude. Hell yes. And like I said, man, we might be on a potential run here. Buffalo is a huge challenge. No doubt about it. We got to prove something there. We got to go in. We're going in rested. Let's do it. Let's do it up, baby. In addition, my Denver Nuggets are looking absolutely dominant to start the season. Yeah, we lost the other night to the Timberwolves. Not very favorably, I should say. We kind of got blown out in that one. We will have played the Mavericks by the time this comes out, and maybe one other team. I don't know what the schedule looks like exactly. So hopefully we beat the Mavericks. They're looking pretty good so far to start the season. And I know it's early. We got a whole lot of ball left to play. But to start off the way we have, dude, loving it. Absolutely loving it. playing like defending champs should play. And it's ridiculous that so many pundits and analysts have already kind of like, they're not showing the respect to the Nuggets, I don't think. It feels like it, at least. And maybe that's just from my perspective. But it just seems like everybody's talking about the Suns and the Bucks and the Warriors and the Lakers and fucking Philadelphia. Everybody else. It's the same as last year. All the same Boston, all the same teams are being talked about. Except Denver. Now, I'm sure they're talking about them a little bit. Of course, they're going to show a little bit of respect to the defending champs. What's it going to take? What's it going to take for them to realize that we are a juggernaut? I don't give a fuck about Kevin Durant and the Suns. I don't give a fuck about LeBron and the Lakers. It's all about Jokic and the Nuggets. And until those teams prove otherwise, it shouldn't be any other way. Those teams have to show that they can beat us before they get to be the talk of the town. Denver is the defending champions, and we are not looking like we're not going to repeat. That was a couple of double negatives. I shouldn't have done that. We're looking like we're going to repeat the way we're playing. So we should be perceived that way. We came out week 1 and bodied the Lakers. They were talking all this shit off season like they were going to come in and really do something. They didn't do jack shit. They didn't lead one time in that game. Completely shut down Anthony Davis in the second half. And they thought we were done. You got to prove us wrong. So Nuggets are off to a great start. Avalanche are off to a great start. They were on like a 5. They went 5-0 or 6-0 until they finally lost their first game. I mean, when it comes to hockey and basketball, you're gonna lose games. It's inevitable. You just got to win. Essentially, to make the playoffs in either of those leagues, you just have to win 4 out of 5 games. You just have to consistently win 4 out of 5 games, and you're a playoff contender. Theoretically. That's basically how it is. If you win 5 out of 6 games, bro, you're looking hot. Yeah, so it's just, everything's looking up for Denver sports, besides, of course, the Rockies, because the Rockies suck. So I'm a happy fella. I'm a happy camper when it comes to the sports world. And I had to get it started with that. We got to start off on a high note. And what higher note than the Broncos vanquishing Kansas City in the most spectacular way. And we broke so many streaks. The first time they'd lost by 5 or more points in 40 games. The first game, Patrick Mahomes has not thrown a touchdown since like 2021 when they played the Broncos before. The last time he lost, the last time he didn't throw a touchdown in the game was against the Broncos, and it was in 2021. And then also, pretty sure it's got to be one of his most turnover games he's ever had. I can't imagine it's not. So, that's the way we're going to start this episode. I figure I should probably fill y'all in on my Halloween shenanigans that I got into over the past week. I was a little bummed. I usually go to our friend Beth and Jake's house. They always have a really awesome house party. And I just didn't make it. I felt like my friend Mac and his wife, Savannah, were going to... They chose not to go to that this year. And I didn't want to be... I mean, I would have been a third wheel no matter what. But as much as I know Beth and Jake decently, it just feels like I'm the friend of the friend still. You know what I mean? Like, we don't hang out otherwise if it's not an event that includes Mac and Savannah. So I kind of felt awkward just kind of if I would have showed up. I know I would have been welcomed. It's not about that. It's just, it was my own insecurities that kept me from going there. They always put on a great party. I felt bad that I didn't go. But instead I went down to Hooligans. They always have a Halloween party. It was it was fun. Like, the party itself was great. It was not as fun for me because I wasn't there with anybody. I was kind of just lone wolfing it. And ended up going to the Crystal, singing some Rob Zombie, of course. Dressed as Rob Zombie. Got to sing some Rob Zombie. I will say this, I did win a $100 gift card to Hooligans in a costume contest. I think there was like 10 winners or something like that, and I was one of the 10, so that's pretty rad. The amount of people that did not recognize me was unbelievable. That's how you know you put on a good costume. I walked into the Crystal, and Chris and Rosie, who are like longtime bartenders, known them for 5+ years, they know me very well. I'm clearly a consistent patron of the Crystal, as I've made very clear on this show since its inception. Walked in, waved at them, and they look at me with a cross look like, huh? And I'm like, what's up? And even me speaking, they're like, who is that? And they walk to the end of the bar. I walk right up to Chris, and I'm looking him dead in the face. We're maybe like 4 feet away from each other. And he still looks at me and goes, I still don't know who you are. And I go, dude, it's me, Dakota. And he's like, no shit. That's how you know you put on a good costume. So I did win a costume contest. That was pretty rad. First time that's ever actually happened, to be honest with you. Yeah, first time I've ever actually won a costume contest. So kudos to that. The amount of people, though. Now, I understand. Rob Zombie's not really been super relevant for a while. You know, he's still around. He's still like in the zeitgeist. But he's not like currently a big, huge name. He's not like front news type of guy. And he's all, in the music scene and in pop culture and all that stuff. While definitely iconic, I understand it's a very niche market for people to understand what I would have been. And I knew that going into this. I'll say this first of all. The amount of people that knew who I was impressed me. Thoroughly impressed by the amount of people that got it on the first try. Rob Zombie? Is that Rob Zombie, right? Yeah. Awesome. I was very much impressed. On the other hand, I was confused for several other people. And it's not so much that I do understand thinking it's somebody else. Or having a theory of what else it might be. The two that I remotely would give a pass to was Bret Michaels. I got Bret Michaels a couple times, and I'm like, it's hard to not give him that, because while Bret Michaels clearly doesn't have dreads, and I definitely wasn't gay enough dressed to be Bret Michaels. I get it. The cowboy hat, the long hair, the makeup. Fair enough. I wasn't wearing the stupid bandana with it, but fair enough. I'll give him Bret Michaels. The honest to God best one I got that I was super surprised by, somebody looks at me and goes, Korn? I'm like, damn, dude, like, I can't even be mad at that. That's pretty damn good. Granted, Jonathan Davis doesn't wear a cowboy hat, but the dreads, the makeup, if I took the cowboy hat off, I pretty much was Jonathan David. So I got to give him that one. But the amount of Jack Sparrows I got? Baffling. Unbelievable. I'll give him the fact that on glance, at first, like, brief glance, sure, maybe Jack Sparrow. You got the makeup, you got the dreads. That's it. If you took any amount of time to analyze the costume, analyze the way I'm dressed, you'd immediately be like, oh, clearly, that's not Jack Sparrow. Yeah, I'm the version of Jack Sparrow that wears a cowboy hat. I'm the version of Jack Sparrow that wears denim jeans. I'm the version of Jack Sparrow that wears a graphic t-shirt and leather cuffs. What you talking about? Nothing about that costume besides two things, and the dreads weren't even right. Didn't have the beads in it. Didn't have a bandana. Didn't have the fucking... I had a full beard. I didn't have a wispy little mustache and a goatee. Nothing about what I did should have screamed Jack Sparrow. And I was increasingly getting irritated by by the amount of people that were like, Jack Sparrow? I definitely got Jack Sparrow as many times as people knew who I was. Knew I was Rob Zombie. So the more Jack Sparrows I got, the more I'd be like, yeah. I'm the version of Jack Sparrow that's not dressed like Jack Sparrow. I'm the multiverse of madness version of Jack Sparrow. What you talking about? If you would have looked for 2 seconds, you would have known I wasn't Jack Sparrow. So, that's how the old shenanigans went. Nothing too exciting to report. Oh, I ended up winning like $400 on Halloween night. That was pretty dope. But other than that, just on actual Halloween night, dressed up again, went to the Crystal, hung out, sang some songs and had some fun with friends. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Nothing too wild, which is nice. I like a calm night on Halloween. Before that, before all the Halloween stuff, that past Friday, we went out for my brother's birthday. Turned 22 or 23? No, 23. Because he was born in 2000, so it's easy to remember what age he is on his birthday because of, obviously, 2023, he'd be 23. He wanted, of all places, to go to Applebees for his birthday. Now, Applebees, what is Applebees? What is it? Let's be honest. You tell me, what kind of restaurant is Applebees? Think about it for a few seconds there. You don't know? Me either. What does Applebees serve? A little bit of everything? Yeah, you'd be right about that. Applebees is the absolute most baseline restaurant that there ever was. If you said, make a restaurant from scratch, well, what's the theme? No theme. No theme whatsoever. Well, what's the cuisine? Everything. Anything and everything. Well, what's the decor? Casual. Just whatever. Just basic. Basic restaurant vibe. They'd build an Applebee's. What's the difference between Applebee's, Ruby Tuesday, TGI Friday, and Chili's? Trick question. They're all the same. It's like that meme from The Office where Pam hands Creed the picture, the two pictures, and is like, we need you to find the difference. And she says, they're the same picture. That's what those restaurants are. All of those restaurants are the baseline of restaurants. I mean, below that, you have fast food. Here's how restaurants go. Like, if you're talking about a restaurant, I'm not talking quality necessarily. I'm talking just what a restaurant is. It goes fast food, which is McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, obvious things like that. Then you have fast casual, which is Five Guys, Mooyah, Shake Shack, things like that. That's where that is. Then you have Applebee's and TGI Fridays and all of those kinds. Then you go a step above that. That's where you get your franchise restaurants, like your basic franchise restaurants like Olive Garden and Texas Roadhouse, Old Chicago, whatever. Franchise restaurants. Your let's go with your more top tier. Basically anything else that isn't fucking Applebee's is above that. That actually has like theme and serves like they serve a specific thing like steak or Italian food or Mexican food. Above that, you have your local sports bars or your local, like, just whatever. Local will always beat franchise. Bar none, that's it. That's where you have your local shit. Above that is where you have your local restaurants. You know what I'm saying? Like your local anything. That whatever it is. Chinese, Italian, whatever. And then finally above that is fine dining restaurants, which is whatever else beyond. Whatever is considered to be like, I guess when you say local, because, you know, you're going to have fine dining restaurants across the world that are local and just like based on those locations. But you're going to have your local, like your local, let's say, we'll go with local sports bar and all that shit. We'll put that with like affordable local. And then above that, we'll put like more expensive, fancy, fine dining local. That's how it goes. And there you go. That's your tier list for restaurants. So based on that, Applebee's is just barely above Five Guys and fast casual. That's not a high spot on the tiers, okay? I think the slogan, what is the slogan for Applebee's? Something in the neighborhood, right? The actual slogan for Applebee's should be, why eat here when you could eat anywhere else? Now, the reason Landon wanted to go to Applebee's is because they just started the Dollaritas. Now, you might say, is he just being cheap? Is he trying to stretch the wallet a little bit? Chances are yes. Could it also be that it's a gimmicky thing? It's kind of fun. It's kind of funny. It's like meme worthy. You know, it's kind of a whatever. Probably more likely that it's that. I remember when he told me he wanted to go to Applebee's. He goes, dude, they got the Dollaritas back. I was like, okay, like fun, cool, whatever. Like, that's fine. He goes, oh, dude, and they have the 2 for $25. I'm like, all right, bro. Let's try and act a little bit less cheap here. Like, he's dude, and I got a coupon, and you know, like, what else are you gonna tell me that like makes you look like a cheap bastard? Whatever, though. I haven't been to Applebee's in a very long time. Mostly because I actively just avoid it, because why would I go there? Anyway, whatever. Like, I'm game. I'm down. Let's try it out. Let's have fun. And yes, we did have a good time. It was pretty decent good time. The food at Applebee's is mid at best. You're going to get some things that are good. You're going to get some things that are absolute shit. My sister got a steak that, not even kidding you, she asked for a medium rare. It was gray. They might have actually cooked that thing medium rare. I don't think that animal was ever alive. Whatever animal that thing came off of looked like it came out of a grave. It was gray as shit. Did not look appetizing. My burger, on the other hand, was pretty decent. Now, the biggest issue on the night, first of all, we had a group of 15 that was showing up. They would not let us push tables together. We had to sit at 4 different tables and talk amongst each other in a completely different section where there was nobody else. It was just us. Why we couldn't push tables together? You got me. Now, to our server's credit, it probably was incredibly annoying that not everybody showed up at the same time. Everybody was kind of trickling in, and everybody was having Dollaritas. And of course, she'd come back and more people would need Dollaritas. Every time she'd come back to our spot, she'd be getting new Dollaritas. Because they go fast. They're small. They're weak as shit. They're $1. It's $1 for a fucking drink, okay? They're not strong at all. My brother was all like, by his fourth one, he's like, man, I'm starting to feel these. I'm like, dude, no, you're not. Placebo effect. You think you're getting drunk. You're drinking mostly mixer. Nonetheless, aside from our absolute I worked service for 5 years. Trust me, I've seen it all. I've done it all. I've seen it all. I still have nightmares to this day about the horrors of serving. Never once did I go up to a table, no matter how pissed off I was, and not have a motherfucking smile on my face. This bitch could not have made it more apparent that she wanted nothing to do with us. At one point, it was just the absolute most unbelievable thing to her that my mom sat at one table and we sat at another table. Me and my sister sat at another table because we were kind of trickling in. And then eventually more people were showing up. So my mom moved to our table to be with us because there was people that she didn't know there. And that just turned this bitch's mind upside down that we changed one seat over. You know how this wouldn't have been a problem? If we could just push them all together. But she didn't let us. So our seating was very important to her. And who was on each check was important to her. Just, hey, figure it out. Right? Just figure it out. It's not that fucking hard. Bro. When we first sat down, it was like 5 or 6 of us. Right? All we had were drinks. We only had been ordering drinks up to this point. And she was getting so frizzled out by who was on what tickets and who was sitting where. And like I said, my mom moved and she got completely just thrown off. And I almost just looked at her and said, hey, if it makes it easier for you, just tear up that ticket. I'll pay for the margaritas we've had. What is it, $10? I'll pay for those now. And you can start over. Just so that you can, somehow figure out how to manage who's sitting where and what's going what. But for some reason, she just could not fucking handle that. And she was just clearly, visibly, and audibly not having it with us. And I'm sitting here like, dude, if you are going to treat us like we're going to give you a bad tip, hey, surprise some motherfucking prize, we're going to give you a bad tip. And I'm not the guy to give a bad tip. I like I said, I worked service for 5 years. But you're not entitled to a tip. I hate this idea that because you're in service, you're entitled to a tip. Oh, fuck no. Absolutely not. You have to earn that tip by being pleasant, by being on top of your shit, by putting shit in correctly. I remember when I did poorly, and I knew in my heart, I was like, dude, I don't deserve a good tip. Sometimes they'd still give me a good tip, and I appreciated that. Absolutely. I didn't think I deserved it. You're not entitled to anything. Especially in Montana, where you get still paid minimum wage. There's other cities and other states that you only get paid sub-minimum to serve. So you do rely on tips. And granted here, yeah, you still do rely on tips. But that doesn't give you the right to be a total cunt. You gotta earn that shit. And that's what I'm saying about it. Dude, I remember at one point, I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but I was like, I had like half a glass still and she was getting more drinks. And I just said, Oh, I'll get myself another one too. I'll just make it easier on you since you're getting them now. I don't want to have to make you get them later. I'm trying to help her. I'm looking out for her. And she audibly says, it doesn't help. Dude, it took everything in me to not Karen out on this bitch. Hey, where's your manager? I'm not that guy, and I never would be that guy. I would never write a review, right? I'm not going to go on Yelp. I'm not going to write a review. I'm not going to complain to the manager. And dude, guess what? I still gave her a decent tip. Did I give her as good a tip as I probably would have? No. But I didn't give her $2. I didn't give her $1. I'll never scratch a zero on that tip line. That's the most dick thing. I still gave her like a decent tip. Not for the bullshit she had to put up with, I'll tell you that right now. She did have to put up with some shit. That's called earning your tip. Huh? You don't, again, this goes back to the what we opened up with, perspective. You don't know which of us have served and not served. Maybe we know what you're going through. Maybe we understand all of this. Guess what? There were 5 of us out of the 15 that were servers that knew exactly what she was going through. And she acted like we had no idea. She acted like, oh my gosh, these people, they're going to come in and drink dollar drinks and make me run all over the place. And yeah, we did. But we know how that goes. We're going to tip you accordingly if you act like a decent human being. In addition, she didn't think, hey, maybe one of these guys has a platform that he's going to go on and absolutely roast my ass. She didn't think about that. Yet here we are. How do you know I don't work for like the Gazette or fucking the news or how do you know I'm not a higher up person that's going to tell everybody, hey, don't go to Applebees. It don't matter. Don't go to Applebees. I would have told you that before this trip. Just saying. And I wouldn't call her out if I knew her name, but it wasn't worth my time to fucking know her name. And that's all I'll say about that. I can't even put her on blast because I didn't take the time to remember her fucking name. And if you don't think I'm not going, if you think I'm going back to Applebee's anytime soon, you'd be sadly mistaken. You'd be correct to assume that I won't be going back there for a long time. Yeah. So there's my big old rant about Applebee's. Dollaritas and diarrhea. That's what it was. And I made that joke that night. And guess what? Was spraying mud the next day. Didn't cook that burger all the way through, did you fellas? It was actually a good burger. I didn't mind that. But, we had like an appetizer. It was like, okay. Nothing special. Absolutely nothing special. Now that we've had some fun, that we've had some laughs, I've gotten out a really decent rant. I got to talk about the thing that I told you I was going to talk about last week. If you watched last week's episode, you know I briefly touched on the ongoing war in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine. And I do want to give my thoughts, my impressions. More importantly, I just don't want to ignore the fact that this conflict is going on. I want it to be clear that I am aware of it, that I have thoughts. I just don't want to be like silent about it. And you know what? I'll say this too. This whole silence is violence thing. Shut the fuck up about that. People can choose what they want to talk about. I'm choosing to talk about this. Granted, this is a show about positivity. We want to spread positive vibes. But we talk about the real shit too. And the real shit includes some dark stuff. So I'm going to talk about it because I'm choosing to. And mostly, the main reason I want to even talk about this goes back to the message of the day, which is perspective. Okay? Now, first and foremost, I want to say this. I am absolutely heartbroken and appalled at what is happening in that area. In the Middle East, in Israel, in Palestine, in Gaza, whatever. I am absolutely heartbroken for the people, for the civilians, for the innocents, anybody who has suffered loss on both sides, and anybody who has just been harmed in any such way by all of this. I feel for them. I am saddened for them. And that's where I want to start. I just want to make that very clear from all of it. Because the thing that pisses me off the most, the thing that irritates me the most about all of this going on, is once again, we have turned this into a divisive situation. It's all about division. Whose side are you on? Where do you stand on this on this issue? It's all, you got to pick a side, right? That's how it is with everything. That's how it was with BLM. That's how it was with the COVID thing. Everything becomes one side or the other, and you have to choose. And if you don't choose, silence is violence. I think it's absolutely ignorant to think either one of these sides is right or wrong. Because it all comes down to perspective. First thing you got to remember, this is a conflict that's been going on for a very long time. As long as Israel has maintained being a nation or whatever, this has been a conflict for I think 100 years or more, right? This is a constant headbutting. I remember growing up always seeing in the news Israel, Gaza, the West Bank, conflict here. This is not a new conflict. This is all the same. This has been going on for a long time. That's one thing I want to say. Now, granted, particular situations that have taken place this time around are different than past. You have terrorist organizations that are acting for the people of Palestine now, or they're acting on behalf of those people. Now, whether or not those people want them to act on their behalf ceases to be understood, okay? You gotta imagine people on both sides have a perspective about this. If you look at it from the Palestinian side, they look at Israel as conquerors. They came in and took their land. They've both, now keep in mind, both of these nations, or both of these groups have committed atrocities against one another for a very long time. Tensions have built consistently. From the Israel side, obviously in this particular situation, they came into Israel, the terrorist organizations came into Israel, and they attacked, murdered, kidnapped civilians. And of course, none of that is right. I give no justification to that ever. I will never give justification to human atrocity. I will never give a justification to acts of war or anything like that. Now, Israel's retaliation, I don't agree with either. I think there's always a civil way to handle things. I understand sometimes your hand is forced. Now, if you look at the Palestinian side, they may be looking at this as a revolution, like they're trying to have an uprising and revolt, right? Similar to the situation in Ireland long ago, where the IRA, they were a terrorist organization. They were acting in the name of the better for Ireland and trying to give Ireland a free republic. Do I agree with what the IRA did? Absolutely not. And I'm pro-Ireland. I am pro-free Ireland. I don't justify those acts whatsoever. You can look at what the Americans did in the American Revolution and try and look at it from that perspective. Again, it all comes down to perspective. And I choose not to choose a side. Simply because I'm not a part of either of these groups. What's going on, like, of course, human atrocity, I don't stand for that. But I don't stand for retaliation either. I think there's other ways we solve issues as civilized people. The fact that so many people are calling for war, the fact that so many people are, on one side or the other and calling for the blood of the other is absolutely sickening. And the most sickening thing about it is the majority of people that are taking sides have absolutely nothing to do with this conflict. They have no dog in the fight. They're choosing to pick a side. Let them deal with it. This is their issue. Why do we need to become a part of it? There are nations all over this world, and we only choose to side with them when conflict erupts. We don't choose to be on the side of China or Russia or fucking... we never gave a fuck about the Ukraine until the conflict arose. We only decide to care about people when there's conflict. And yes, I understand. Like, I choose peace. I choose anti-war. I'm anti-war. I do not think about when the World Trade Center happened. Think about when 9/11 happened. Everybody in this country became united. We all were angry. We were all justifiably wanted retaliation. That was an act of war upon us, and we wanted to retaliate. Yes, I agree with that. Like, I agree from that perspective, because you can only see things through your own perspective and through what you can experience firsthand. That was an act of terror on us. So yes, of course, I'm going to feel threatened and feel like retaliation is necessary. And what did we do? We went into a country that did not deserve retaliation. Ultimately, what it all comes down to, it's not as simple as it seems. Look at Russia and Ukraine. Look at Palestine and Israel. You think it's as simple as good and evil? Hollywood has made everything seem so simple, like it's all just good and evil. And there's a good side and a bad side, and we have to choose which side we're on. We have to choose what type of person we're going to be. Are we going to be the good guy or the bad guy? When it comes to geopolitical issues, it's never as black and white as it seems. The whole, like I said, we got two conflicts going on right now with Russia and Ukraine and with Israel and Palestine. If you think it's as simple as one side is the good side and one side is the bad side, you'd be absolutely mistaken. There's always a bigger picture. There's always a longer picture and way more at play than we are aware of. If you think America is going to step in and be the good guys, we're probably pulling the strings all along the way because they want our support, they want our weapons. That doesn't cost nothing. It's all much deeper than the surface. So to think that you're just going to sit and choose one side or the other is just ignorant. And in addition to that, to make a decision, to make an assumption or a decision as to which side is the bad side and deserves their blood to be spilled is grotesque. It's absolutely abysmal for you to think that. If you're sitting here thinking, well, this side is bad for this and this, they're the perpetrators and they deserve to be punished. That's insane. To ever call for blood, to ever want to see civilians hurt and that retaliation is necessary and this and that and the other. Yes, let these countries battle it out. Don't involve civilians. That's never called for. That's human atrocity. And I do not stand for that. One way or the other. Again, look at it from their perspective. Look at it from one side and look at it from the other. And I guarantee you, you're going to see justification on both sides because everybody's the hero in their own story, right? Everybody thinks that they're the right. They're in the right and the other's in the wrong. The Nazis thought that what they were doing were right. Clearly that wasn't the case, right? I mean, obviously in some cases, yes. It is a little bit more black and white. But in other cases, such as this, it's a little bit more complicated. The funny thing to me, and it's not funny, honestly, but it is kind of ironic. The amount of people who are siding with Palestine and condemning Israel, the reason it's comical to me and ironic is I've only heard my entire life about how great Israel is and like the Jews are, all through high school we talked about how disenfranchised the Jews were and why, and then of course you got all the people that are like xenophobe, you're absolute, you're a racist or you're a Zionist or you're whatever. This is a religious race war. And you're choosing a side? Do you know how fucking insane that is? This war between these two is about which one of them thinks the other one is below them. Which one of them is more superior than the other. It's about land, it's about religion, it's about race. Make no mistake about it. And you want to choose a side. Huh. Well, what the fuck does that make you? Just putting that out there. I have no dog in the fight because I belong to neither of these groups. Let them. If you are a Palestinian or if you're Israel, if you're from there or you are that, you're justified. That's your people. Of course you want to support your people. Talk to somebody from Palestine. Talk to somebody from Israel. They're going to tell you a completely different story. Are they wrong? No, because they only see it from their perspective. We're all the heroes in our own story. That's just how it goes, man. So you can't judge either of these groups for their reasons of fighting. Was it justifiable for Hamas to go in and do what they did? Absolutely not. Was it justifiable for Israel to retaliate with a full-on ground assault? Which I don't know if it's happened yet, or if I know it's been talked about. Is that right? No. Does Hamas deserve to be punished for what they did? Yes. But there's ways of going about it. And Hamas does not, while they claim to represent the people of Palestine, I'm sure there's a lot of Palestinian people who would disagree, who would not claim the name of Hamas. And you got to think about that shit too. And it's also just ironic, the fact that there's a lot of people that are siding with the Palestinians. The Palestinians fucking hate Western culture. If they captured you and you're like, no, I'm on your side. If they knew you were from the West, they'd fucking cut your head off. If you're like a left-leaning liberal that's like pro-Palestine, bro, they fucking hate gays. I mean, this is just all religious-based, okay? I'm not talking about like Palestinians in general, but based on the religious aspect, they don't like gay people. They don't like fucking freedoms and like women's rights and shit like that. So you're supporting a sector. Like I said, I'm not completely trying to talk about all of the Palestinian people because I know there's open-minded Palestinian people. So I'm just speaking remotely about the area, like the Middle Eastern area. They're not exactly pro-West. So just saying, they probably wouldn't give you. They don't care if you're on their side. They'd fucking cut your head off just as fast. It's unbelievable. And to all that, it still breaks my heart. You know, I'm not. It breaks my heart the fact that it's happening in the first place, and it breaks my heart that we're once again in a divisive state over something that we're not even involved in. Unbelievable. And just think about perspective when you think you need to choose a side. Hell, we got shit going on over here. What about that? We got fentanyl crisis, we got homeless crisis, we got fucking you name it. We got a lot of problems over here, and we're worried about the rest of the world. Well, the rest of the world keeps going on without, like, they don't give a fuck what the rest of the world. What about everybody else? There's 180 some countries, and we're only focusing on a handful? Bro, what the fuck are you talking about, man? There's problems everywhere. There's problems here. Why don't we focus on that? Why don't we put our energy into that? Because everybody's got to care for themselves. And that's just how it is. So, I of course don't want conflict. I never would want conflict. So, to that, I say think about it. Think before you act. And that was our message today. And that's how I'm gonna end this whole thing. Okay? Real quick, since we're sticking with the darkness, I just want to quick mention R.I.P. to Matthew Perry. Tragic death. Died in a hot tub, man. 54 years old. That's not old at all, man. It's sad. It's really sad because of, the struggles he went through, his addictions and all that. I don't think we fully know exactly what it was that he succumbed to as far as why he fell asleep or if it was a heart attack. I'm not sure. Probably health problems, I would assume, from years of abuse. But, very sad. Chandler was one of my favorite characters on Friends. And I know he mentioned in a recent post that he wanted to be known for more than Friends. So I'm going to do him that favor and shout out his recovery group that he created. The Perry Foundation, I think is what it's called. Meant to help people who are struggling from addiction and things like that. So he said that was his proudest work. And I wanted to make mention of that because that's what he said he wanted to be known for. So R.I.P. to Matthew Perry. Just wanted to get that out there also. Let's go ahead and end it with a more positive light, with a little bit more of a positive talk. I know it got dark there. I know I got kind of heated. But we got to have the discussions. We got to talk about it. I got to give my perspectives as well. So, recently, boxing, man, oh man, the boxing world has been shaken to its core by a UFC fighter, an ex-UFC fighter, the ex-UFC heavyweight champion of the world, Francis Ngannou. Went up against the current boxing heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury considered one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. This is a big boy, very skilled boxer, one of technically just so good. And we've seen what's happened with these crossovers, with like the social media, the influence crossover to boxing, and then you add like the MMA crossovers to boxing, and it typically doesn't work out too well for any of them when it comes to fighting real boxers. In this case, totally different. Now, Francis lost on the scorecards, but he won in all of our hearts. I think most people, at worst, saw it as a draw. I don't know what the scorecards reflect. I'm not a huge boxing expert. I didn't even watch the full fight. I saw the highlights. All I know is Francis knocked down Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury looked to be in trouble most of the fight. And he could not figure out anything he was doing. I think the majority of people thought he won that fight. Whether or not he did or didn't, he didn't lose the fight, I should say, he didn't get knocked out. And he was standing at the end. He looked fine and fresh. He went 10 rounds with the heavyweight champ of the world. That is an accomplishment in and of itself. He outperformed he did better than Deontay Wilder in some of those fights. Deontay Wilder got knocked out in the last 2 fights. Francis didn't. There's a lot of things you could say. You could say Tyson wasn't taking the fight seriously. Maybe he wasn't prepared as he should have been. Fair enough. Maybe that is true. If you're the heavyweight champion of the world, you better come prepared. Especially against a fucking dude like Francis Ngannou. So shout out to Francis, man. Huge shout out. I can't wait to see the movie. If you don't know Francis Ngannou's story, all you got to do is go listen to the Joe Rogan episode, the very first one with Francis Ngannou. That story will shake you to your core. It is one of the most incredible tales of trying to escape a horrible life and make a better one. And nobody embodies that more than Francis Ngannou, especially now, especially what he's done now. So, huge shout out to Francis. Just wanted to say that. Dana White's sure looking stupid for not being a part of that deal now. Because the biggest name in combat sports right now is Francis Ngannou. And they let him go. They could have been a part of that whole deal, but they chose not to. Their loss. Sometimes the UFC misses. But I'm still obviously a UFC fan. We got some good fights coming up. Super sad to see that John Jones and Stipe Miocic. John Jones got hurt. He pulled his pectoral. He's going to be out for a while. And unfortunately, we don't get to see the matchup between John Jones and Stipe Miocic. I thought that was going to be an amazing matchup. Super bummed about that. But we have Tom Aspinall versus, what's his name? Pavlovich. That's going to be a good fight. I think that'll be a solid fight. And then, we got a couple good cards. The December card is going to be fucking off the charts. I can't wait for that one. So we'll talk more about that on a later date because it's not here yet. And we will address that when we get a little closer. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Just keep perspective in mind. Look at things, look at the world through other people's shoes. Stand in their shoes, see through their eyes, gain perspective before you cast judgment. Very important. If you're thinking about going to Applebees, don't. That's the best advice I really could give, to be honest. Yeah, just don't. Just don't go to Applebees. It's not worth it. And our thoughts to the Middle East. So that's where we're gonna end it. Thank you so much again. If you haven't yet, like, share, subscribe, follow on all platforms. Have a great day. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. But most importantly, don't forget, life's a garden. Dig it. Just gotta keep on keeping on.
Life's a garden, dig.